How's it going there, folks? I'm Quinn, that snazzy iPhone guy, and this is the video review of the SR80 headphones from Grado Labs. Now, these will retail you for $100 US. However, they can be had for a couple bucks cheaper depending on the site in which you shop. Just for the headphones themselves, as you can see, they carry quite an interesting design. They're very classic, very circa, 1950 style. They actually remind me of ham radio headphones, but for a lot of people, this is not a desirable design. I actually think it's pretty cool looking. It's kind of retro feeling, but again, a lot of people think this is incredibly ugly, and I mean, you can decide for yourself. Now, the headphones, the cups right here oscillate 360 degrees, which can be a pro and a con. The pro is it makes it pretty darn easy to untangle it if you get any tangling here in the Y joint. The con is because they oscillate 360 degrees, it makes it kind of easy to tangle them. So it's kind of a catch-22. Now, here on the side of the headphones, you will see that there is a right and a left indicator, and you can also slide the cups up and down on the headband. The headband is not padded at all. It's just covered in this faux leather with a metal band that holds the two pieces together. It is wired to both cups, which a lot of people don't like. I didn't like it initially, but it's since not become an issue. Again, goes down to the Y joint right here, or the yoke, and then it's a very long cable, about 7 feet, which again can be a pro or a con. If it's studio use, if you're using it for audiophile listening, that can be great, but for a lot of other people that want a shorter cable, that can be a pretty large con as well. You have your 3.5mm headphone jack, and a 1/4 inch adapter is included. Now, let's talk about the use for these headphones. They are open back style, which means you're not going to be toting around on the bus or on campus or anywhere of the sort. These are really for at-home audiophile listening. Why? Well, because they're open back, not only do they leak a lot of sound, and they leak a lot of sound. I can be listening to these at medium volume, not at all loud to myself when I'm listening to them, yet they can be heard in rooms, far away from me in my house. These leak like crazy. They're almost like speakers. So that's one thing to note, but also they let a lot of sound in. And the reason this is good is it creates a very open feeling. So when you're listening to a classical or an acoustic set, you really get some pretty nice soundstage, and it feels really open. It feels like you're there listening to the band live. The problem with this, though, is it does let a lot of sound in. So even so much as a snap from, a fair bit of distance away can be heard on these headphones. So that's something to note. It does sound very nice, but you have to be in the right situation for it to sound very nice. And it's totally not going to work for portable use. Now, let's talk about the actual sound, because with a pair of headphones, that's what you'll be looking for. And luckily, the SR80s do not disappoint. They have probably the best rock headphone sound that I've heard in any headphone under 150 bucks. It really is phenomenal. They're excellent for jazz, they're excellent for acoustic, unplugged, vocals, anything of the sort. When you dive into R&B, rap, and techno, it's not that great, because these are not very bottom heavy. They are very, very in your face, actually. They have really sharp mids and highs, which make them really bright, and a lot of people may not like that. They find it fatiguing. I was not a huge fan of it. These are very, very accurate, and they replicate the sound of the track very well, but it was a little bit too bright and too in my face for my liking. They could have tightened the bass up a little bit, and they could have made it a little bit more responsive. In fast-paced tracks, the bass did fall slightly behind. Soundstage is good, but it's not fantastic. For an open-backed headphone, it's not that great, which was disappointing as well. However, it's to be expected in a $100 headphone. Now, as for some specific tracks that I found outstanding, Battle of the Beaconsfield Miners by Foo Fighters was incredible on the SR80s. I've tried headphones that are $300, $500, $600, and they didn't even scratch the SR80s. These are really brilliant for acoustic and unplugged sets. Also, Against the Grain by Acoustic Alchemy was jaw-droppingly good. But again, this has to be in the right context. Rock, jazz, unplugged, great. Everything else, not so good. Now, one other thing to note is the foam pads are quite uncomfortable. They did revamp the foam pads with the SR80i's, which is what I have here. There's also a fair bit of confusion, the difference between the 80s and the 80i's. They stopped selling the SR80s way back in 2004, so if you buy a headphone, even though they'll be indicated as SR80, they are indeed an SR80i. And the SR80i, really all they did was they redesigned the headband a little bit, and then they also reapplied some different foam pads, which I'm still not a fond of. They don't seal very well on your ear, and they're not very comfortable. They're kind of scratchy, and I've noticed, and a lot of other people online have noticed, that after about 30 to 45 minutes of listening, they get quite itchy, quite uncomfortable, and they were just not really a great fit for me. Also, these headphones are not very durable. They're all plastic construction. This is really the only metal on it, also the headband, but they just don't feel like they're very, very well built. And again, when you're paying $100 for amazing audio, you can't really complain about the build quality, but it certainly is something to know. If you're listening to these in-home audiophile hooked up to your computer or hooked up to your, these can be driven very easily as well, by the way, so you can hook them up to your iPhone or your iPod. If you're sitting in your couch and you listen to them a few hours every day or whatever, it's not going to be an issue. Now, if you're toting these around on a trip you're going on and throwing them into your backpack, you may experience some breakage on these because they are certainly not very durable at all. That's pretty much it though. These are pretty stellar headphones. Again, you have to use them in the right environment, but I have loved listening to the SR80s. They've yielded to be some of the most accurate headphones I've ever listened to, and although they're not as fun as some of the other headphones in this price range, they really provide an incredible listening experience for rock and jazz. One other thing, a lot of people ask me, Quinn, what do you mean when you say these headphones are fun in your reviews? I had a write-up and an editorial that I did on Snazzy Labs that is in the description box below, and it's quite extensive. So if you want to know what I mean when I say fun, go to that article and read up, and that should be a little bit of a help. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, rate, comment. The SR80i is not for everyone, but they can be the best headphones under $100 if you're using them in the right context. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, rate, comment. Visit snazzylabs.com, and as always, stay snazzy. This video is brought to you by Roku, Netflix, Hulu, music, live sports, Angry Birds, and a whole lot more. All on your TV for just $60. So much fun for so little. Visit TreadedUS/Roku to learn more.